Welcome back to another episode of Your Platform Podcast. Very excited to do the show. I am here with Amanda Boehm with Remix on the Bay and Erin McNamara. Oh, I almost botched. Did I botch it?
McNamara.
McNamara.
Yeah,
I did
close.
botch it.
Yeah, close enough.
AKA the Real Estate Mom Moguls from their podcast. And I was a guest on their show back in April, right?
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday.
I know.
And just very excited to have you two here with me today. I want to just kind of jump into your journey a little bit into real estate, how long you've been in real estate. And then I got some questions about you as moms. I've been tuning into the show. And it's funny it's funny because how you opened up the show, or just even before we kind of got going here, you guys do kind of just kick it on. It's like you guys are talking on the phone for like the first 15, 20 minutes. But I think that kind of humanizes you two a little bit in what you do. And I think that the people who listen to it, including myself, definitely appreciate that. They're not just this, buttoned up and,
Far from buttoned up.
Unscripted.
Yeah.
Because I listen to a ton of podcasts.
Yeah.
And some of them are just kind of straight to the point. And it just seems like two friends, coworkers, probably been working together for some time now, just having fun. And you guys are just translating into a podcast. And that's relatable for a lot of people. So let's start with the real estate industry, the business, why you're in it, how long you've been in it. We'll take it from there.
Okay.
Who's first? You go first.
All right. So I've been doing it for about 9.5 years. It'll be 10 in January.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to real estate, I worked for the town of Waterford. And I loved that job. I worked with kids. I worked out of youth services. But once I became pregnant with my daughter, I wanted to be able to be more present.
Sure.
There were after school programs, there were weekend programs, night meetings, so I wanted to be able to be there with my daughter.
Right.
And having parents who owned a real estate office, it just was the right time to kind of segue into it. There was always that perception of creating your own schedule, all that, which we can do, but I quickly realized that it's not as simple as that. But it's been a lot of fun. I always know how long I've been in it because I started in January and I had my daughter in February. So I'm like, all right, how old is Veda gonna be? That's how long I've been doing
awesome.
it. So yeah.
And Amanda?
I have kind of sort of similar track into real estate where I was pregnant with my older daughter, also wanted that illusion of flexibility that is not always true. So I've been doing it about 8 years. I took the class in licensing before she was born, so she'll be 8 in January.
Okay.
But same thing. I mean, my husband has a career where he doesn't have really any flexibility in his schedule, and we needed someone to have some flexibility. At least, if somebody's sick, if you really, really need to move things around, you can.
Right.
Nobody's going to tell you can't.
I love to ask this question on the show. What did you two want to do beforehand?
I went to nursing school.
You went to nursing school. Wow.
I didn't know that.
Look at that.
Yes, you did.
Did I? I don't know that I did.
Well, I went to nursing school.
I like that.
That's funny.
So that wouldn't have been very flexible with kids.
Yeah, right? That's true.
That was,
I love you guys' dialogue so much. I love it so much.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. Yeah. I went to school. My major was sociology, which is pretty broad, but I use it now. That's for sure. But the job that I had, I did love. I love working with people. I love helping people, and that's a lot of what I did at youth services. My favorite time of year was always Christmas time because we had a big Christmas program where people would adopt families and all that. And that was by far my most favorite time of the year. So I I always knew I wanted to help people in some capacity.
Right.
You know, I still do. So it is nice that that all kind of translates. But how I wanted to do it, I didn't really have a specific, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So let's just go straight to the podcast, because I think that's like, I laugh at it quite a bit. Not at you. I think your dialogue.
You can laugh at us.
I bet you do laugh at us.
I think about even the dialogue just now between the two of you. It's like I felt like we were on your show and whatnot, and we're just listening to it. But what got you into saying, "Hey, let's start a podcast"? Because you guys have 30 episodes. I think you guys started in 2023, and I think from
you know more than I do.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when we initially connected, you guys, you know, you record and then you take a couple weeks off because, you know, obviously kids breaks and stuff like that. But what was the intention and the purpose of jumping into podcasting and creating the Mom Moguls podcast?
So I started listening to podcasts a lot, and I really enjoy them.
Sure.
So that's like what I listen to in the car,
Sure.
whatever. And I listen to a whole bunch of different kinds.
Same.
So I came to a point where I'm like, you know, I wonder if I could do a podcast or whatever. But it seemed like a lot. You know, it's one of those things that's like, it sounds like a great idea, but like I have no idea how to start. And so I brought it up in a meeting or something, and
Just randomly.
and Amanda reached out to me after. She's like, you know, I would do this with you. And so I was like, well, if someone's going to do it with me, then why not? You know, like, so we just kind of jumped in. Yeah.
Without having any idea what we were doing.
What was the purpose of Mom Moguls and, you know, the intent behind starting that specific theme of a show? Because when I listen to you all, again, going back to what I said earlier, it's just a conversation with friends, and then you guys go into the work. But that's almost the love what you girls do for work, not just. But the best part is the banter, the dialogue. Your kids in the back, the dogs in the back. You know, I think you know, I loved hearing you talk about how I think it was your husband who was really sick, and and you were like, you know what, he probably you know, I'm a guy. The man flu is a real thing. You know, when we're sick, we can't do anything. When you're all sick, you do everything. And it just, the dialogue is so pure and natural. And I love to listen to it. So was that kind of what you just wanted when you started the show? Like, was that just, hey, you know, instead of picking up the phone, let's just do this in a podcast format?
So I think obviously we started with the real estate part, right? Because that's what we do.
Sure.
But I really enjoy the podcasts that are relatable. You know, like I don't care much about some of the more like straight to business type podcasts. I love when they're authentic.
Right.
I love when they're, and probably because I very much relate to it, you know, like a little bit of a hot mess.
Yeah.
And I think that what we do, meaning mom, real estate agent, you know, creating our schedule is sometimes underrated.
Sure.
Right? Like you get to make your schedule. It's so great. Oh, being a real estate agent, so great. Like, oh, you're a mom. You get to go into the kids' school, you know, like, so I find some comfort in hearing from other moms, working moms,
right,
that like, it's not just me,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And the start of our podcast is usually before we even start recording, we're just talking, and then we're like, wait, we should start this, you know? So like it is like genuinely like we're catching up. And
Our conversations are essentially the same on and off mic.
Yeah, they are.
For better or worse.
So, you know, I think that it helps to, you know, kind of put out there that like we all are professional hot messes. You know what I mean? Like we are like, we can get it together,
yeah,
but
sure,
like we're still like, it's not as easy as it might look on social media or whatever, you know?
But I think the word that you use that I really go back to is relatable. So like when we're working with clients, we're not hiding who we are. Like absolutely, we're there to help you with real estate, and we're going to do a very good job for you as best we can. It's not to say our mess in our life comes first.
Right.
But it is who we are.
Right.
And that is what we're juggling. And we're not here to hide that.
And I actually gained a client once because I was a mom. She was a mom and also a foster mom. So like her life was a little more chaotic, you know, but it was one of those posts on Facebook that a million, you know, hey, I'm looking for a realtor and everybody, right? But she said to me, she said she looked on my page and saw that I had kids. And so that was what, you know, drew her to me. So it's like, we're honest. What you see for the most part is what you get.
Like a lot of these clients, we end up building a relationship with.
Right.
Like it's not just cut and dry. It's not transaction oriented. We get to know each other. We get to know about their life, their jobs, their family. Like it.
Right.
You
all
guys,
encompassing.
Your most recent episode, I think, came out Monday, I think, or maybe last week.
Friday.
Friday. Yeah, Friday. You talked about the hard parts of kind of what you do. That being, it seems like you guys have a little bit, I think it's Amanda's. I don't know if it was you that was talking about, you know, just stuff getting thrown out there and feeling more exhausted, if you will, than usual, dealing with a market that's not as friendly as it was just 6 months ago. And I say this even from the insurance perspective, 6 months ago feels like a dream compared to what it is now. And a year ago, it's like, oh God, you know, when is this going to end? When you dive into the thought process of you two as moms and realtors, what would you say some of the most hardest things are? Is it the work-life balance? Is it dealing with the clientele? Is it, you know, kind of just putting on that I can do it face? And, you know, and the reason why I ask this is that it's always if you listen to my show, there's always one part of my show theme. The theme I try to bring out is how can I make somebody a little bit vulnerable in this conversation? What do you two find the hardest thing to juggle with right now in 2024, heading into Q1?
I could have a long list. I could have a really long list right now. You know, I don't know that it's any one thing for me anyways. I think it can be dependent on the transaction or the situation. So sometimes you could have the client or the agent on the other side, you know, the people involved may make it more difficult than it needs to be. And granted, there's high emotion, high stress, you know, it doesn't always bring out the best in people. So take that with a grain of salt. Other times it can be
amazing.
Well, I was thinking other times it can be, you know, underwriters or insurance.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. You know, it can be other problems that aren't necessarily any one person's fault. But again, they hold up the transaction and cause stress and frustration.
So just to piggyback, and I'm curious, how different is this? Because I'm not a realtor. I bought 2 houses. I'm on the other side of things on the insurance. I'm the very last line of defense when it comes to this. How different is this? Like, can you give me an example of what's different now compared to just even, let's just say 2020?
What isn't different?
Yeah, well, and 2020 was like the wild, wild west. Right. You know, COVID hit, and I would say for like 2 years, it was low inventory, low interest rates, so everybody was looking to buy.
And doing whatever they needed to get it.
And you, like, the business came to you more in those times than now. It's not as... Okay, I walk down the street and somebody's like, hey, I want to buy a house, you know? So I would say that's a big difference. And we have the whole commission change, you know, topic of conversation. So that's a big change.
The rates are still high.
The rates, you know, there's a lot. And it changes, honestly, year by year. You know, we watch the market weekly, you know, and we tend to be able to see a change start to happen before it actually happens. You know, like this Monday we had 400 active listings in New London County. That's the first time we've seen 400 since COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. it's still low inventory, right? You know, so it's not like we're out of that, but we're starting to see a shift in an increase. Still low, but it's increasing.
But people's understanding of that or the effect of that, whether it's a buyer or seller, tends to lag. So we'll see this change now, and then the realization of what that means, it isn't really going to come into play for another couple months.
Yeah.
For buyers or sellers to react to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, it's interesting. Because from the insurance standpoint, there's a lot of changes, and you probably get to the last piece. Because I'm finding more people are coming to me very late in the transaction, and historically, people would come pretty much right away. They get the approval. You know, hey, this person told me to call you for insurance. We close in 45 days. That's ideal for an insurance agent. Do you think that's a function of the current market, of just kind of the uncertainty of closing on the house, or the condition of the homes? What do you think is driving that kind of delayed kind of for the buyer to wrap up the process?
I've seen buyers being a little bit more hesitant or reluctant. I mean, certainly doing more inspections than they were negotiating those inspections. So I would say that's probably the biggest cause, because I have seen that where they're not getting, insurance policies lined up in any rush whatsoever.
But I also think, and you probably know this, like we're seeing more companies being a lot more tight with what they're offering, So I personally haven't seen any buyers with like insurance issues, but maybe they're coming to you after starting, I feel like they tend to start with like State Farm or some of the bigger, companies.
We find the issues typically come, the only one that comes ahead of time is if the roof is less than either. So there's some carriers that want a roof that's done within 8 years. There's some carrier that wants roofs within 20 years, some as 15. So that's kind of the only thing that happens pre-bind and closing. But mainly after closing, it's like, okay, insurance companies coming out, inspect the entire house after they've already done inspections. What are you seeing in the market right now trending in the next 6-12 months for people?
I think that's too far out.
Is that too far out?
I think that because we have an election.
Sure.
And things.
Do we think the election is going to shift one way or the other that much?
I don't know. Honestly, I personally don't follow politics all that much. Sure. But I know, generally speaking, when there is a large election year, things tend to kind of stall out a little bit because people don't know
it's the uncertainty. Yeah. I don't think that it necessarily matters hugely which way it goes. I think it's the uncertainty of not knowing kind of the country's path forward or the economy's path forward. So I think you combine that, and then going into like holiday time, quite frankly, things slow down. People have other things on their mind. I don't know that the market will slow down, but I just think that it's I mean, a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and there are always people who need to buy or sell like that. So it's not something that's ever going to like stop, but the majority or a large number of people, they kind of just hang on until they have a better sense of where things are going to go. Happens every 4 years.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people say nothing happens between like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I think that there's some truth to that in general. But I've always seemed to be very busy in December, which is just ironic. Like,
are we currently is it low inventory, low demand, or is it still high demand, low inventory?
Yeah, so still low inventory, and I'd say moderate demand.
And not as high as it once was, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Is this something that we think that is going to kind of continue? I know, let's just say that, because again, I do follow politics quite a bit. I follow the markets a little bit. A lot of things that we thought were going to happen in the market did not happen.
Right.
In fact, actually trended a lot better than anticipated.
Yeah.
When you guys are sitting down with your leaders, and your team, what are those conversations like? on how do you weather the storm? And I say this because you two are the mom moguls, the real estate mom moguls. The people who listen to this, there's a significant real estate, young women professionals that are in similar situations. What are some of those conversations that you might have with each other, that you have with your leaders, to kind of let's head down and stay the course?
So I think that rates probably will continue to drop.
Sure.
And I think that will increase the demand, increase the competition, which is only going to drive the pricing up further.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the message people need to understand, and I understand the reluctance, but I think people really need to trust and believe that if you're planning to buy, you should do so, because it's not about to get any easier. It's not going to be more affordable necessarily if the prices keep going up, and there's going to be more competition. So if it's multiple offers, then you're going to be writing offers and not necessarily getting those bids.
What about you? What do you think?
So I think that conversations we've been having, like in our team meetings, for example, are like, we really watch what's happening in the market. So as far as like today goes, we're seeing an increase in some price reductions. And so what we try to kind of figure out is like, what's the cause, right? So we have this whole new commission conversation that I mentioned before. So now we're having conversations with buyers about, listen, like, you might be responsible for paying your buyer agent's commission. And so I think, and this is my personal opinion, there's no fact necessarily behind this, right? But I think that we are seeing a shift in the sense of buyers are becoming less desperate in the need of like, I'll do whatever I need to do to get a house. And they're saying more like, okay, well, if I'm going to be responsible for paying your commission, I'm going to do inspections on the house, right? Like, there's more financial, a more financial piece associated now with buyers than there was previously. And so I think that has something to do with some of the shift that we're seeing. So sellers sometimes like to push the price, and buyers either can't afford it, especially knowing maybe they'll have to pay an additional amount of money, or they're saying, I'm not going to pay that much money. They're not willing to. So we are very much in a point of watching some of these changes and seeing, so when you say the next 6 months, it's like, it's really hard to answer that question because we are seeing some sort of shift. As people are negotiating now inspection items, we're unfortunately seeing that the commission that they maybe agreed to is now a new negotiation tool. So, like, there are these new things that are happening that we talk about weekly, but we still kind of need probably 4 to 6 months to see it play out, Well, and I think sellers have heard the last couple years how easy it is to sell your house. You can get, as much money as you want for it. You won't have to do anything. And they're not aware yet or believing yet that is starting to change a little bit. Buyers are no longer willing to play that game. Sellers still think they can get away with it. So there's a little bit of a disparity, and trying to have those conversations with both sides, get them to realize we kind of need to negotiate some of this. It's a little more contentious.
Yeah.
It can be, yeah.
So, we, as real estate professionals, watch these things, Is it safe to say this is probably the most trying time in the real estate industry? Like, is this, you haven't done it for 10, you haven't done it for 8, you've seen, 2014, so you weren't in during the 08, but you were there for the,
Right.
I bought a house though around that time.
We did too.
Right. I think this was gonna be part of my answer to one of the questions you asked earlier.
Maybe when I lost my train of thought.
What?
That's maybe when I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. So I've been doing this almost 10 years, and almost every year has brought something different.
Different challenge.
Whether it be personal, right? So like the first year is always hard, period. I had a newborn. I started a new career. First year was hard. The second year was great. The third year I got pregnant with my second. And then COVID hit, so it's like, I feel like that this is just an industry that is constantly changing in one way or another. Like, right, if I was to get pregnant and I was working a 9 to 5 where I get paid time off, like whatever, you just kind of go about it and take your time and
you'd go
collect
right
your
back.
paycheck and go back to work.
And you get the same thing.
Right. Where here we don't get paid if we're not working.
Right.
If we stop building, then the money stops coming in,
Yeah.
So I think in general, it is an industry that is very up and down, period. So I think that I have become accustomed to shifting, okay, well, this is just another adjustment, another shift where agents who have been in 25 years are having a hard time with this current shift,
right,
because it's been done basically the same way for the last
many
however
decades,
long they've been in the business, right? So then you threw in COVID, that was a shift. Now you're throwing in this. I think the adjustment is a lot harder for somebody who's been in the business for a long period of time,
Sure.
as opposed to newer. And I would still consider myself a newer agent, right, compared to a lot of the legends that have been in for so long, I have always been kind of forced to adjust with whatever has come at me. So,
well, and I think that's something our team does really well too, because we pay attention to what's happening in the industry. We pay attention on a nationwide level. We pay attention on a statewide, regional level. So maybe we're not always ahead of the game, but we're certainly aware of what's happening as it's happening.
And I do think we're a little ahead of the game,
I said not always.
Yeah.
But I think we are as much as one can be.
Bud is really good about, he's like the number guy, and so he's really good about taking these numbers and tracking these numbers, and so that when he looks back, he can say, okay, well, this time last year, here's where we were, and that kind of helps to make a more informed decision or opinion on what's happening,
I think with this, I think I love what you said, every year it changes. I think obviously insurance is a little bit different, but we're in sales, right? We don't work, we don't make money. My wife's a teacher, she's salary, she gets paid time off. Her role is a little bit different. I have a lot of people in my life who just kind of, make really good livings just doing what they do. It's not like that with us. And I believe that these roles, sales roles, commission-based roles, are really build character in people. You can't have everything be great for your entire career, because then where do you see the growth?
Right.
And I believe that I'll use my industry, when people can't handle the constant change and how fast things are changing, they're gone within a year or two. And this is why I love that you two are on, because you've weathered several different things in the last decade, and people want to hear like, hey, you know what, they did it, I could do this too. Who's your support when it comes to the frustrations, the trials, the tribulations that you guys come up against? Who do you guys lean to? Because I think that's a big in our roles. We need that support. Is it each other? Is it family? Like, who do you look to? What do you do when things are like, man, F this, I don't want to, like, this stinks, I quit. I've quit my job like 12 times.
Yeah, I know.
I think you get the brunt of it from me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're friends, right? So there's that.
Yeah.
I'm team leader, so there's that. But that's also the benefit of the team, is because we can all talk about this stuff. We meet weekly. We have group chat, so it's like we are all there to support each other. Like, we're going through this together. Right. If Amanda's having a more challenging time currently than me. So it's like, it's good because we balance it out. You know what I mean? Like, and then when I have some hard transactions, then, you know, Bud, he's my dad, our broker though. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is
very level-headed. You
very
can go to
level-headed
him with anything, and
so
he's like, "Here's what we're gonna do."
It depends what type of mood I'm in, whether I go to Bud or my mom. If I need somebody to like calm me down, I'll call Bud. Sure. Like, all right, talk me up the ledge. If I need someone to just be like, yeah, you're right, I'll call my mom.
Ready to battle.
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's a difference. Like, I mean, I'll talk to my husband about different things. I'll vent, but he doesn't understand all of it, right?
Sure.
So like, there's a difference between talking to someone who gets it, who's in the trenches, who knows what it all takes, versus someone that's just going to kind of listen and, you know, say, sorry, that sucks.
Right.
Like, and there's a time and a place for both, but
sure.
Yeah. Whenever I talk to my wife about insurance frustrations, it's like she can only get so much of it,
right.
you know, and it is nice to have that person who really understands you. And it's actually, you guys know, I went back to comparing. I was, you know, because when I was with you, when I jumped on your podcast, I was with Assured Partners. I quit them. Back to comparing. Yeah. And the reason why is because I had a good leader and a good team where I was, and they were a good company, Assured Partners, but I just didn't have that. So I went back.
It's important.
Super important. Yeah. I didn't realize how much I valued being on a team that, you know, you can collaborate with, you can brainstorm with. And it to me, that means anything more than just even, I mean, they could have offered me a ton of money. I probably still wouldn't have stayed with them. We'll wrap up here in a few minutes. I got I want to, you know, talk maybe some fun stuff a little bit. Each of you give me one of the most awkward, what I write here, awkward moments for a showing or dealing with like some strange situations in your career in real estate.
I think of one for you, right off the top of my head.
Like recent?
Yeah.
Okay. Recently, this year, I had a showing at a condo where showing was approved. Walk in, I had a buyer client who was a young girl in her 20s. Walk in the door. The stairway was right when you walk in. There was someone standing in a towel at the top of the stairs.
Oh my God. Did they not know the showing was happening?
Apparently not. I mean, it was approved, but they clearly were not ready.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What about you?
That was awkward.
That's awkward. That's pretty awkward.
God.
That's what we're thinking of, right?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of for you. Yeah. Awkward. I guess the one thing that sticks out first is earlier in my career, I did a lot of like foreclosures, bank owned, and I would be the first person in after the tenants vacate. The things I've seen beyond, but I remember one time specifically, I went into a house and it was disgusting, absolutely disgusting. I had to take pictures or whatever. And when I came out, I got into my car and there were fleas jumping all over me. What? So I jumped out of my car and I started taking my clothes off because I'm like, what am I going to do? Like I had, you know, like my shoes or whatever. I wasn't like naked, but like I was outside, that's, you know, gross. I'm just like freaking out because I have bugs all over me. I didn't want them in my car. Yeah. So that was years ago now. So, but that still sticks out.
That's good. What's one thing you girls cannot start your day without?
Coffee.
I'm with you.
Are you agreeing with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was my first thing. I start it while I'm taking the dog out.
What's your favorite type of house to show?
Antique homes.
Antique homes. Why?
I've grown up in like the art and antique business. I've had some family members in real estate appraising. The rest of my family was on art and antiques. For me, I don't get excited going into a house where you can like, if you can picture the floor plan or the layout before you even walk in the door, like it could be a very nice home. It just doesn't excite me.
Yeah, I see.
I really like old homes, like maintained, nice. Like I don't mean an old spooky home falling down, but like something different.
Some of the old houses in like New London are really cool. Yeah. You know, like they just have that old charm that you won't get.
Yeah.
And I'll argue all day long that some of them are built better.
They are. Yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure. What about you?
I wouldn't. I'm not as big in the antiques as she is, but I do like that old charm. But I also really like certain landscapes, like waterfront. How can you not?
Sure.
But I also like the country, like private in the woods type homes, and those homes are usually pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything different, not like cookie cutter.
Yeah, I have a cookie cutter home.
I do too.
It's just
we all do. Yeah.
No, so I tell people often, like, the home we live in is not my favorite home.
Yeah.
I love my neighborhood. I love my location, but my house is not anything special.
See, I wish my house was in a different location. I mean, I like where I live in Salem. It's just a little far from everything.
Yeah,
it's like 30 minutes from anything I ever want to go to work. 30 minutes. Go to New London. 30 minutes. Go to Mystic. 45 minutes. Like, But
I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
And this is going back, but I think that it's something that like somebody else would feel. But I think your question was the hardest part. And for me, it's feeling like I'm never where I want to be. And that's in mom life, that's in work life. Like last year I focused a lot on, I had a couple new projects work-wise, and then I was really focusing on like exercising and eating well. But like my work kind of suffered from it, because it's like you can literally only do so much. So it's like I'm always going back and forth with the, if I'm doing really well at work, I'm probably missing things with my kids. Or if I'm really invested in going to all the kids' things, then I'm not doing great at work, So I think for me, that is the hardest part. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who can understand.
100%. 100%. So I had Tim Macy on my last episode. He's so good. Yeah. He's so good. And we were talking about, he had a buddy who climbed Mount Everest. And he's like, for your entire life, you prepare and you work and you do all this stuff to climb to the top of this mountain. But then you get there and then you get down and you're like, now what?
What's next? Yeah.
What's next? And there's some people that get depressed from having accomplished that. And I think that's just kind of, so people might not agree with this, but I think that's okay to feel that way. And because I also feel that way. But I kind of leverage it in a way that I'll just deal with what I'm dealing with right now. And I'll just, for example, I went gung-ho when the podcast started and I was recording all the time and I went crazy. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, I feel like I'm burnt out. Yeah. So then I kind of slowed down a little bit. And I had to tell myself like, yeah, whatever, that's okay. Like I'm doing this for me and having fun doing it. And it's having these conversations. And the same thing with the work, I got to, if I can't get anyone on the phone, I make 100 more phone calls, whatever the case might be. Yeah. And I still might not be successful, but that's okay. It's the action I took to do it. There's never going to be this perfect. I mean, I don't think that anybody has it figured out. Like, not us. Like whomever is, the influencers. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. They might have a little more support, maybe a little more resources to deal with it. But I don't. I mean, we're ordinary people, and I think that if we want to binge watch TV for 1 week and then do the podcast another week, or do, I think ultimately it comes down to family first and happiness. And if you're happy with yourself and your family and where your things are, we have this like weird stigma of like having to just, yes, we want to be better. Yes, like you said, you want to eat better, you want to work out, you want to do that. Like, yeah, that's good for mind, body, soul. But if for whatever reason we didn't get to it, so be it. It's okay. So
we got to give ourselves some grace.
Yes.
So I think for me, it comes down to like triaging your priorities. So, and it's a priority because we care, right? We care about our job. We care about ourselves. We care about our kids, whatever we need to show up for. But like on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, whatever it may be, I feel like you need to triage where your priority needs to be. So like this week, I have some work stuff that I really can't pass off on anyone else. I can't put to the side. Next week, maybe it'll be more family oriented. You know, it's a give and take, and it's ever changing.
Last week, I took one day. I stayed home. I did laundry all day. I was like, I need to get this stuff done. You know, which is another nice piece of the flexibility.
Right.
Like I can do that. You know, stay home and clean my house today.
The Real Estate Mom Moguls, thank you, Amanda and Erin, for joining me today. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having
us. By the
us.
way, congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you have a little one on the way.
Another one, baby girl.
A girl. So
Yeah.
this will be your second girl.
My second girl,
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be crazy. I'm looking forward to it. We're excited. April 5th is the due date.
Awesome.
Both of my kids' birthdays in April, so.
Oh my gosh! I know. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So we're excited.
You guys are consistent.
It's coming quick. Be wrapping up here, but before we let you go, two things. First, I always like to ask: is there anything that I didn't ask or that I didn't cover, I didn't talk about that you would have liked to, talk about today, or is we okay? And the next thing is, where can people find you two and the podcast?
So our podcast is on Spotify, Apple Music.
Yep.
Do you put it on YouTube?
Well,
Sometimes
we started it.
There was some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
with that.
and then, it is there.
Okay.
You could find some of them.
Okay.
I have not been consistent about putting them all on, but Instagram, which we haven't been great at that these days either, but we're good.
We're there.
Yeah.
You can find us
We're
all
there.
of these places.
At Real Estate Mom Moguls. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining me. A lot of
Thank you
fun.
for having us.
Despite the technical difficulties, I think we were able to make this work, and we'll do it again soon.
I'm excited.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.